are joined by lacrosse coach Jackie Stezzi. And Jackie, there's been so much bad news throughout the pandemic over the last 10 months. But for you and your husband, Tim, recently, there's been some good news. Congratulations. Tell us all about it.
Thank you. No, it's definitely been, I think, the silver lining, the light at the end of the tunnel for all of this COVID stuff. Just having, we had our little girl, Natalie Elise, in October. And it's just, the hardest but most wonderful thing that we've ever done. I think every parent out there can probably agree with it at this point.
I know you haven't coached since she was born, but a lot of people say they change after they have children themselves. Do you expect that's going to happen to you?
I've heard that from other, coaches. I'm starting to think that some of the crazy parents I've, come across with in the past weren't so crazy. I completely understand I never want her to be cold or sad or, uncomfortable. It's just, putting your kid first is number one, and wanting the best for them. I already experience it now. So I think that I'll probably be a lot more compassionate and understanding with some of parental requests and things like that. But no, I think it gives you a whole different life perspective too. So, and that obviously includes my career. So.
This is your fourth year at Kutztown. Before you became a Golden Bear, you spent some time at Wilmington University. How did that experience prepare you for where you are today?
So I was very young. I guess 24. I look back and that is, I was a baby. I didn't know what I didn't know, and so I made mistakes but learned so much. I will always be incredibly grateful to the people at Wilmington. I had a couple of really great mentors there, who took me under their wing and basically taught me how to run a program and how to handle player issues and anything that you can imagine as far as like what you come across with being a head coach. So I feel incredibly grateful that I had that experience, and I'm lucky that I was surrounded by such great people in a special place. So I feel fortunate that I had that opportunity. Spent some good time there, but needed to move on to a full-time position. So I was part-time head coach there, and working at a restaurant and running, waiting tables and, coaching club too. So just, had a couple jobs and I was ready to, kind of focus on one. So when this position came open, I, jumped right for it. I'm from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area. So it was ideal to be close to my family. And then obviously the PSAC is an awesome conference to be a part of. So competitive. It's some of the best lacrosse in Division II. So I was really fortunate to have landed this gig.
As you try to build your program, you had 2 really solid years. You were off to a good start last year. You've had some all PSAC performers already in your short time. Where do you think your program is right now?
So, I think that, when I came into the program, it was something, where we kind of like blew it up. And you have to start from the ground up as far as like building a culture and, standardizing what you want to do, or kind of making sure that your goals are aligned with the players that you have, and bringing the right people in. So we've done so much work with bringing the right kind of recruit in. My philosophy has always just been make sure that you're surrounded by good human beings and strong athletes that want to compete and they love the game, and I can make you a great lacrosse player. I have confidence in what my abilities and my staff's abilities to turn you into great lacrosse players, but it's culture first when I came in. So I think that we started really building that, and everybody was finally on the same page and we were rolling, and I feel like we were just in a great rhythm starting last year. And then obviously the shutdown happened and kind of had the rug ripped out from underneath of us. So, in the end, obviously we want to win a national championship, and what coach doesn't? How is that not your final goal? But as far as kind of where I see us going from here on out, it's just absolutely competing and making a playoff berth. You have to walk before you can run. So that's absolutely where we'd like to do. And I think that we were on track to do that last year. Unfortunately, what happened. So.
And with that, Jackie, how concerned are you, if at all, about recapturing that momentum once you get back onto the field?
Um, I'm not concerned about the momentum per se. I think that the players and I think every spring athlete, all the athletes, playing right now, I mean, they just want to play. We just want some sense of normalcy and to go back to doing what we love the most. And, so I think that the momentum, will be there. I'm so excited to step back on the field. I mean, I've never seen my freshmen play. And that's so strange for us because we usually have this fall ball period where we're teaching and getting to know each other and building that camaraderie and those relationships off the field. And I didn't have an opportunity to do that. And really the girls, because I was on maternity leave, and the girls really didn't either because of, the restrictions that were put in place, understandably. But I think that the biggest thing that we're going to need to focus on is kind of that meshing piece off the field because they just didn't have the opportunity to do that. So I think everybody is fired up, very excited to get back on the field and just play. But it's that meshing and that gelling that usually we have a fall ball to do that. And unfortunately, we really didn't have that opportunity. So I think I have to take a page out of the fall sports coaches' books as far as how they get up and rolling with only a couple weeks of preseason before they play. But we're just happy that we have the opportunity to be back. I feel really grateful, and hopefully, we're able to finish out.
What kind of is the plan now going into the spring with all the uncertainty that's still out there?
It's like one of those things where I think we're all tired of hearing that it's a fluid situation. It's going to change daily, but that's still the case. So, the plan is to start next week in pods. We have a great testing plan in place, the university does, and then the same testing company is going to be working with, the department. So we're going to be testing on the regular to keep things safe. Clearly, I would love to have the girls in an NBA style bubbles where they're not coming in contact with anyone ever. But the reality of the situation is that, they have to go to, class. I think that, there are some kids that learn well with the online stuff, but I don't think you can replace the in-person stuff. So academics are the most important thing, and they need to go to class and get that face-to-face instruction. And then, they have to be really careful as far as being social is concerned. We have two opponents this year. The first one is COVID and the second one is the PSAC. So, just trying to make sure we don't have any positive tests, and, keep the season going as much as possible. It's an ever changing animal. And I think that, we just have to stay resilient right now. And flexible. If it happens that, we're going to play team X on a Wednesday and one of those girls test positive and we end up playing, another team that Thursday, and I have to, pull a scouting report of that team and watch film all night and kind of prep them with, one practice instead of, a couple usually before a game. And that's what we're going to have to do. But, I think at the end of the day, we need to keep what the most important things, that we have our health, and that we have the opportunity to play.
What are your thoughts on your brand new playing surface at Keystone?
Yes. It's gorgeous. I am so incredibly fortunate. When I got hired, it was one of those things that was, it's something that we're working on and it's something that we'd like to see happen. And I really was surprised how quickly they were able to do it. And I'm so grateful for the administration for, putting the resources and for the president for, giving us the opportunity to play on such a beautiful field and such a beautiful place. I mean, we were so excited for a lot of reasons last year with the opportunity to, play in that stadium. the field, and obviously not being able to do that play season or any conference games on that field was really unfortunate. So it's another like layer of excitement that we have this year, is that hopefully, knock on wood, we're going to be able to finish out our PSAC play on our brand new field, and hopefully get that first win, set some records, and all that fun stuff. So
Jackie, you've been an advocate for women's lacrosse. Where is the game right now in terms of popularity, and what would you like to see changed in the game, if anything?
It's a good question. Well, as far as where the game is right now, I think we're booming. They're adding programs all over the country, especially at the Division II level. You've seen a boom, which has been really exciting. From the youth side to the high school side, they're adding programs every year, so that's really exciting as far as like the growth of the game is concerned. The fact that you see these little kids starting at like 6, that's amazing to me. There wasn't an opportunity that I had. I was a field hockey player and ran track, and so I really didn't have the opportunity until like middle school, high school. But it's wonderful that the women, the game has come so far, and that there are opportunities for the youth to start elementary school, which is exciting. As far as like the college game is concerned, we did have those rule changes in the past couple of years, where you have a possession clock now, so it has gotten so much faster, so much more exciting. It's been really, really fun to coach and game plan, and recruit around the new rules. So I think that the game itself is really going to be a lot more, and has been a lot more exciting to watch over the past few years. And I think that that's really exciting. I mean, we have so much potential as far as like the national level, and have games televised. And I know, the IWLCA, which is our coaches association, has worked tirelessly to really advocate for our sport. And it's something that I think is really important. And, I think it's a great time to be a part of the game right now. So, I mean, as far as where it's going next, obviously the national level and getting more televised games would be great. I think the thing that I'd like to change probably would be some of the early recruiting and like the super specialization of the sport. It's great that kids can start young, but I think that they should still continue to play other sports. I think that that's really important, to prevent burnout, and it makes you a better athlete. And I think the more sports you play, so that you're still excited to pick up your stick when you get to the college level. It's not like by the time you hit your sophomore year, you're laxed out. Like you're ready to rock all 4. So I think that's where I'd like to change things.
Let me take you back to your college playing days at Monmouth. You play a Division I sport. You've literally got the beach right down the road.
But it's New Jersey. That's the difference. It's not a Florida beach, but you're right. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Still the beach, which you don't have at Kutztown. I didn't have that opportunity.
No, you're right. But I'm sorry.
Dual major in political science and history. I have to ask you, how? How did you get it done?
Well, yeah, I changed my major a couple times, and a lot of classes, full disclosure, overlapped. And they were classes I was really interested in. Like I love that stuff. So it was something that, and I was on the 5-year track too. So don't give me that much credit. I did take an extra year to finish out. But yeah, no, I loved it, and I feel very fortunate that I had that opportunity to play at such a great school with a wonderful education and an amazing coaching staff and teammates. It really was the reason why I'm sitting here talking to you today.
You've also had the chance to literally play all around the world, Germany, yeah. Czech Republic, Australia. How did that come about for you, and what was that experience like?
So there are a couple international organizations that put teams together. USAAI was one of them, and then there's AIST now, I believe. And it's one of those things where they contact your coach and invite you to go and play. And I love to travel, and I love experiencing. I think when you first your first time out of the country is probably the most exciting thing for me, just kind of to realize that like your bubble is so small and there's this big wonderful world out there to experience. And I think I caught the bug, and so I kind of jumped at that opportunity, and it was just so cool to see the game, play the game with people that weren't US citizens, and experience culture and see the world in some really amazing places. So, and with some like really great people. So I feel really fortunate that I had that opportunity.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us and learning a little bit more about you. Congratulations again on your little bundle of joy, and good luck on the field this spring.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time, and go Bears.
It starts as a golden bear, but where you finish, that's untold. Because when the raw materials are put in the right hands, that's when you strike gold. It's good to be golden.
We are joined by soccer coach Erik Burstein. And Erik, 14 years on campus at Kutztown, you've been able to get the women's program to national prominence. What was that build like for you?
Well, the task was daunting. I mean, I came to KU from Bowling Green, didn't know much about the area, didn't know much about the university, but just felt, when I got there, that it was a place we could build something really special. The people that are on campus, the campus itself, you just had this overwhelming feeling that something could really be built there. So the first year, we went out, we did some recruiting, had a decent year, but we had our sights basically set on being a nationally competitive program. So we were able to do that fairly quickly, and credit to the players we've been able to bring in, and the work rate and the effort and the attitude that all of our alumni, current players, have had. We've been able to kind of maintain that. But it's a daunting task. I mean, you go in, you tell a group of 18 to 22-year-olds, like, look, this is my vision, this is where I want to go. We're either on board or we're not, and you hope everybody buys in and wants to do it. And fortunately for me and for the program I took over, they wanted that same experience. So it's been nice.
How rewarding is it to get to that level and to be able to stay there for a long time?
It's incredibly rewarding. I mean, I think, it sets your expectations and your standards change. I mean, when you come in, and when I took over at Kutztown, I mean, the program had some success. This wasn't a bad program, but it wasn't sustained. I mean, it was something that was, a couple of years, they had really good seasons, a couple of years, so on and so forth. So we wanted to build sustainability. We wanted not to just be good 1 or 2 years in a row. We wanted to keep it consistent and build, upon that reputation. So I think, it has been challenging to stay consistent. But I think once you achieve a standard, and you have to, increase your benchmarks for your team, for your players, for your staff, I think everyone's motivated to reach that next level, reach that higher point. So I think there's some internal motivation that makes it a little bit easier. But to be honest with you, I mean, it really is not easy for any program, especially in the conference, to maintain such a high standard. It takes an immense amount of work. There's struggle, there's success, there's enjoyment, there's, tears, it's a whole bunch of emotions. But what you find is that when you finally get to that point, it's easier to say, look, this is the standard. This is where we have to be. This is where we have to stay. And I think you find players and even coaches start to operate at the elite level more frequently, because that is now the standard. That is now the expectation. And I think when you make that clear to the players, they have an easier time adapting and adjusting to that.
You're not exactly in an easy conference either. How does that competition in the PSAC help further your program?
Well, I mean, the conference now, especially with this East and West split, it almost makes us the ACC of Division II women's soccer on the Eastern side. It's great. I mean, I love it. I mean, there are great coaches on the women's soccer side in the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. There's great players. So every game is so different. Every game is so unique. But it's also very stressful because you can't really have an off day. I mean, you're always competing. Any one of the top 4 or 5 schools can interchange at any point in time. But you can never rest on anything. So it makes it more mentally challenging. It's mentally grueling, but I think that the conference as a whole within the state of Pennsylvania, especially, is starting to gain the respect it should have had years ago. I think more prospective student athletes and parents look at the conference and say, wow, this is high level. Almost like mid-major Division I level soccer wrapped in a Division II philosophy. So it's exciting to see that happening. Because I think when I got to Kutztown, I don't think people respected the PSAC from a women's soccer standpoint the way they do now. And that's credit to the teams we play against. It's credit to our program, our players, and the people who come into our programs and compete. They've made it what it is today. And it's really exciting to see that.
You went to the Final Four in 2016. As you look back, what was that journey like for you and your team?
Oh gosh, I mean, there were so many things. You just, and I've been coaching almost 20 years in college. That year we were very young. We had 16 freshmen, I think, in that group, and we started rocky. And we went to Millersville, and I think we outshot Millersville in that game like 38-4 and lost 1-0. And then we came back and kind of squeaked out a win against Charleston. So it didn't start well. I mean, I think we were 3-3 at one point during the course of the year. But then something just kind of happened. We had great leadership in that team. We had, not just captains, but seniors and juniors who really helped, pull all the younger players in. And there was really something special about that group. You could just feel it. They wanted to be together every day. They didn't want the season to end. They wanted another practice, another game, another opportunity to be around their teammates, their coaches. It was just a really special type of a feeling. And it was one of those things that in my, like I said, 20 years of coaching, I never really felt, I've always felt something good about my teams. It was something about that group that just seemed like something special is happening here. And again, you took it one day at a time. You kept telling the kids, look, it may never be like this again. Let's enjoy it. Let's continue to work hard so we can train together, be together. And it did. And it was an unbelievable experience, and certainly one I'll never forget.
And then the next season, 2017, you get off to a fantastic start. You get the #1 ranking in the country. What was that like?
Surreal. I mean, it was, never expected that. I mean, obviously to finish #4 in the nation, the previous year we went to the Final Four, we kind of expected that we were in the Final Four. And then we just, we didn't know what the next season would be like. Would there, be a lapse in our focus? Would there be any drive after achieving something so tremendous? And there was. I mean, we had another a good group of freshmen. We had a kind of a new coaching staff at the time, 2 new assistants who both were very, very good for our program and very instrumental in helping us achieve that. And then it's just like you blink your eyes, you're 5-0. You blink your eyes, you're 10-0, and you're like, holy cow, where's this coming from? And then, when the national rankings are coming out, we expect to stay, in the top 4, never #1. And then all of a sudden it drops and everything hits on Twitter and all this stuff is going crazy. And we're like, what? And then you look at it and you see it and you're like, this is unreal. So it was great. And it was really not expected, not something we ever thought we would achieve, but, just another great, great accomplishment for this program. It was amazing, and super happy for the players, obviously.
You were a goalkeeper, and I'm curious how that perspective on the field has shaped you as a coach.
Well, I think from a goalkeeping standpoint, one of the things when I was younger playing, as a goalkeeper, you can see everything is in front of you. You see how teams move, how, players are playing, patterns that are developing. So I think from a really early age, watching a lot of the game, from the back forward and obviously players attacking goal, forward coming at you, you can start to develop patterns and see things. But it gives you the opportunity to guide not just your back line, your midfielders, your forwards, the communication, and you start to understand the game, I think, at a little bit of a different level. And I think as goalkeepers, I think any goalkeeper will tell you we're a little special. But I think that, we see the game differently. It's not just stopping shots and catching the ball and making these diving saves. You have to understand the game at a tactical level. You got to be able to solve problems on the fly. And it's not just your own problems individually on the, within the game. It's your defense's problems. Why are we getting broken down on this left side? Why is the back line not tight? Why is our midfield getting stretched? So you have to fix those problems kind of on the fly. And I think being a goalkeeper, having done that for so many years, when you get into coaching, it's I don't want to say easier, because developing your own style of play and things that you want to do is not easy, but I think it gives you a good foundation to build off of.
It's also such a mental position. So you going through it personally, does that help you deal with a keeper who maybe has some confidence lagging at a certain point?
Sure. I mean, when you can stand in a player's shoes, I think it really does make the communication part a little bit easier. But also the understanding. I think sometimes, as coaches, we can very easily at times get away from, you can't put yourself in the college athlete's shoes all the time, from classes and, final exams, social pressures, all that type of stuff. So I think the more you can relate, whether it's positionally or just in the whole, this bubble that we operate in, the more you can relate to your players, whether, like I said, position or otherwise, it does make things a bit easier. So for me, with communication and goalkeeping, when I see things happening within a goalkeeper situation, trends in the way that they're playing, I can relate to it. And it is a little easier to communicate and kind of pick them up and say, listen, this happens. This is how we have to fix it. I've been there. It puts you on a different level in terms of the communication and understanding part.
You're a New Jersey guy, and the Garden State has been well represented at the national level, the likes of Carly Lloyd and Tobin Heath. Why is the state such a hotbed for youth and high school soccer?
Not just the state. I think the Mid-Atlantic region, to be fair. I mean, I've been in a number of regions coaching, and I do find some of the hardest working blue collar players come out of the Mid-Atlantic region. I mean, yes, they're technically proficient, but they have an immense work rate. They have the right type of attitude. They've got a little bit of edge to them. So, whether we're getting our kids from Central PA, New Jersey, Long Island, Delaware, Maryland, everyone in this Mid-Atlantic region, at least from my perspective, they've got a bit of an edge. They've got a workman like attitude. They want to dig in. They want to fight. They want to develop. They want to improve. They're coachable. I just think the mentality in the Mid-Atlantic region is a little different. And I think some of the athletes that we're fortunate enough to work with, have that edge to them, and they have that desire to compete, desire to improve, and their work rate is always tremendous. So it makes coaching kind of pleasurable when you don't have to, because you can't teach work rate. I mean, either you have it or they don't. And fortunately for our program, we get a lot of kids who bring those types of attributes into our program, which makes coaching them and working with them so much better.
You've got yourself a fairly new playing facility at Keystone. How's that going to benefit your program in the long run?
It's phenomenal. I mean, you have consistent surface year round. I mean, take away the fact that it's a stunning facility. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I thank the KU athletic administration, President Hawkinson, student government board for working to see that there was a need there for the entire university, not just for athletics. But it is. I mean, when you look at around the PSAC and you see the facilities and the investment in athletics across the board, whether it's scholarships, staffing, facilities, you either have to stay on par or get left behind. So it was something that I think really elevates our program. I think it really elevates our campus. And I think it provides just the general student body more recreational space to play and enjoy, being a student at Kutztown University. So it's going to help everything, not just our program, but just, everybody on campus who has the opportunity to use it. It's an amazing, amazing facility.
No secret that soccer is a very skilled and technical game. You didn't have a fall season. You're going to be able to do some things in the spring. How concerned are you about the caliber of play when it's time to ramp it up for real, hopefully in the fall?
Great question. I mean, first and foremost, your heart breaks for your seniors and your seniors' families. They haven't quite had a senior day, and we'll try to do that for them in this, when we hit the spring season. The little bit that we were able to work in the fall, I was actually quite impressed with every player on our roster in terms of their technical ability, their work rate, their attitude. Although it was very sad to lose the season, there seemed to be a bit more focus. I think sometimes, as coaches, as players, we could take it, we take advantage or take for granted rather, what we have and what we're able to do on a given day. I think athletes who get injured understand this sometimes a little better than players who don't get injured. When something's taken away from you that you're able to do all the time, you start to miss and want to reward yourself every opportunity you get to play. So I think what I saw from our players, was a heightened level of focus, a heightened level of technical ability, because they were really concentrating on every touch, every pass, every movement. And I was really impressed, even with our freshmen who were new to the program, with everybody that I got an opportunity to see and work with. So to be honest, no, I think I'm excited, because I think what we're going to see after this break is a renewed energy in the players to get out, to play, to perform, to compete. And I think, sadly, having a season taken away from them has kind of elevated their focus, elevated their attitude. And I think it's going to generate, more consistent, energetic play throughout all of our sessions or games that we have in the spring.
In talking to some of the other fall sport coaches that didn't get to play this past year, they did say the one benefit was they got to see a lot of high school games and it helped recruiting. What was it like for you?
Soccer's a bit of a different animal. I don't tend to get out to a ton of high school games. A lot of the stuff that we do is at the club level. Reason being is you can go to a club facility and there'd be hundreds of games, thousands of athletes. So for us, it's like, hey, we go to that. We don't like the level of play. We can skip to the next field. There's a whole other set of players. It's really been an interesting process. We've been very delayed with our recruiting. Now, again, we did have a large freshman class, so our needs weren't significant. But it has been a delay. We've been delayed a little bit. We're taking our time with things. I'm happy with the 2021 class as it is now. We're making some progress with 2022. So it's been slower, but I don't know if it's been a bad thing, to be honest with you.
When you look to the spring and however long you're allowed to be out there on the field, what are you hoping to accomplish?
I just want to get back to a normal. You know what I mean? I want to get back to being around the players more frequently, to starting to build our system, our style of play, to introduce our freshmen to what it's really like to train at this level. We didn't really get that opportunity in the fall. And what they did do, they did very well. So I think it's, now tactically getting them some information, something tangible to look at, feel, see, break down their roles and responsibilities so that when we do play in our next competitive match, we have kind of an advantage. Every assistant I've ever worked with, even myself, have said, if our seasons worked opposite, if we were non-traditional in the fall, going through, just a lot of practices and lifting, and we played in the spring, how much better could we actually be? Because we do a lot of learning in the spring. So now we're actually going to kind of have that opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see how we approach our spring season, how that now affects, our younger players, especially if that being their first real experience, getting all of that information early. So then when they hit their first competitive fall, they've got all that information already. They don't have to wait a season to get it.
Well, Erik, great catching up with you. We appreciate the time. Congratulations on all you've accomplished, and best of luck. We'll get some more out there.
Good to see you, Steve. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.